is May 23, 2023, and it's a very funny one, guys. It's really very funny. Look at this headline on the BBC News website. Many foreign students to lose right to bring family to the UK. It's really funny because the UK is trying to clamp down on net migration, and they're focusing on dependent visas. So basically, if you're coming into the UK going forward from today, if you're coming into the UK to study for, say, a master's thought program, you're not allowed to bring your partner or your children with you. And the reason they're saying is here, it all has to do with the UK net legal migration. Ideally, they want to keep the number below 100,000 per year. The net migration to the UK has to be lower than 100,000 per year. But in 2023, projecting that number is going to be 7 times what they want it to be. But this is where I find it really funny. They're clamping down on a proportion of that 700,000 that is quite small. 135,788 dependent visas make up that 700,000 net migration number, and that is what they're clamping down on. And this gets even more interesting if you go into the details. Look at this document here from the Office of National Statistics, published on 23rd February 2023. Why do people come to the UK to study? I'm not quite sure why that question mark is there, but never mind. This document, this article contains a lot of numbers, and I'll just talk you through it, and you'll see why I wonder and why it's funny that they're clamping down on this number if they are really keen on bringing the net migration numbers down. So dependent visas increase net migration, but also is the main applicant, the student visas, the actual student visas. Now in 2022, there were 485,758 student visas were granted, 81% more than in 2019. And that is the bulk of this. That is what is driving this number. No one is paying attention to that. Okay, see this chart? This is about the number of student visas granted between 2013 and 2022. Between 2013 and 2017, the number is quite steady. It's quite constant, more or less constant, about 200,000. But from 2020, there is a steep increase in the number of student visas that were granted. These students come here, spend quite a lot of money to gain a UK degree. But no one is talking about that number. 485,758. The focus is on the dependent visas, but this is the bulk of that net migration figure. But where are these people coming from? Well, this next chart shows the top 5 nationalities that's coming here to study, mainly from Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nigeria, China, India. Nigeria exemplifies much more than the other nationalities. That steep increase between 2020 and 2022. Look at that trend for Nigeria. It's really on the steep rise between those years. But why are people coming? Why is it attractive? It is because of a rule change. From 1st July 2021, the UK government allowed students who successfully finished a degree to stay back in the country for a period. They gave them what was called as graduate visas, post-study work visas, allowed to stay back to work or look for work. In the case of a master's degree, you could stay back for 2 years. In the case of a PhD degree, for 3 years. This is the attraction for people. This is why people are coming here. Why that is what is driving that number. I saw the 485,000 people in 2022. That is what is driving them to come in here. But also, of course, what they focused on the focus then is this dependent visas. It's quite interesting again, and they actually indict Nigeria a great deal here, because the number of dependent visas granted between 2019 and 2022 is on the steep increase, particularly for these two nationalities, mostly for Nigeria. And this is the statement here. It says that Nigeria had the highest number of dependents, okay, in 2022. So the number was 1,586 in 2019 as dependent visas granted to Nigerians. In 2019 was 1,586, but in 2022 that number rose to 60,000, just under 61,000. Now that is really something significant, but that is not the full story. I'll just show you this data up here. Pay attention to this. Between 2021 and 2022, the number of Nigerian students that were granted visas, students, rose from 6,798 to over 59,000. Now that is what they're not keen on telling you. That is what they're not highlighting. The connection between the number of student visas, this steep increase that you see here, that corresponds with, again, a steep increase in the dependent visas. They're keen to highlight this sort of increase, and here again they mentioned it from 2019 to 2022. It's 19% in 2019 number of dependent visas, and it's 51% in 2022. But again, there is that connection between the main applicant, the student visas, and the dependent visas, and by far again this number is mostly what is driving that net migration numbers. They should be clamping down on that. You would think they will be clamping down on the number of students. You would think that they will want to keep that number of students, but no, they're not interested in that. More interested in this little number, this insignificant number of dependents. But that is it. This is the actual numbers behind headlines like this. It is, yes, about net legal migration, but also the full story I have just mentioned is the main applicant, the student visa numbers, are on the increase, hence the increase in the number of dependents.